Hello and welcome to another episode of Loud and Opinionated. Now, you might see I look a little sweaty. That's because I'm very angry at my laptop. I was this close to breaking it because the show was all set up, ready to go. We're going to have a great show for you. And then it crashed because why not? That's just how things work. But we're up and running now. That's the important thing. I am one of your hosts, Jake Williams, alongside Derek Watson. And this is Loud and Opinionated. Today, our main topic is going to be religion. Don't turn it off. We trust that we're not gonna make fun of what you believe or anything like that. It's going to be an honest, open discussion about religion and spirituality and everything in the matter. But before we get to that, it's what we do every week. It's time for the Watson Report.
Hi, I'm Derek Watson, and this is the Watson Report. We're going to start in government and politics. Donald Trump has nominated the new Justice for the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh. A little background on him. He's U.S. Circuit Judge of the D.C. Court of Appeals. He's been doing that for 12 years. He previously worked under Ken Starr and as the lead role drafting the Starr Report, urging the impeachment of President Clinton, which later, ironically, he gave an opinion that Starr was given too much freedom in that investigation and not enough direction. He's an originalist when it comes to the Constitution, meaning that he thinks the Constitution should be interpreted based on its original meaning. He's a textualist when it comes to legislation, meaning that laws should be interpreted based on their text, not on assumed intentions of those who made the laws. And the big hot debate over this judge the last couple of weeks has been their opinion on Roe versus Wade, where he stated that he would uphold previous court decisions. I think that this was important in order to get certain swing votes on the Republican side, such as Susan Collins. So, I don't think we really need to spend a whole lot of time talking about this, even though it is kind of a hot issue right now. But the fact of the matter is he's a generally conservative judge with a lot of experience who's going to be confirmed by the Senate. I don't think there's any doubt.
Yeah, I guess the Democrats are gonna complain about it and put up a fight about it because it's just what you do when your party doesn't get to pick the judge. That's just what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily hate the pick. Some people do. Some people hate the fact that he worked with Bush or this, that, or the other thing, but I don't see the problem. I think it's fine.
Yeah, well, and the truth is, none of us knew any of these judges before, they were brought into light. Like, I had never heard of Brett Kavanaugh before, it was announced that he was one of the finalists for this. So it's not like we're all experts on the guy to begin with. In the end, and it's not like he's the only justice in the Supreme Court. In the end, we knew that Trump was going to nominate a conservative, originalist, constitutionalist judge. And, conservatives are all going to be very excited about that. And liberals probably not as much because they like to legislate through the bench, which originalists refuse to do. They try to take power away from the government rather than give them too much power.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to the whole idea that it's just your separate party. That's just partisan things. Although he seems a little bit more moderate on certain things than I expected. I hope it stays that way. I prefer to have more of a moderate. Like we need a swing guy. We definitely need.
Well, I think it should be more, and I think that he's moderate in the sense that he's not bound to a party. He's bound to following the Constitution, which generally Republicans like to follow the Constitution more strictly than Democrats, but he's not going to be swayed by party lines as much as he's going to say, this is what the text says, this is like what the founders of our country were trying to establish, and this is where where the federal government has the power versus states' rights and et cetera. So I agree. I don't think he's going to be quite as right-leaning as, Gorsuch or some of the other judges. But I think he's a good pick. In the end, the bigger story is if Trump gets one or two more nominations before his presidency's over. I mean, that'll change, the landscape of the Supreme Court for decades.
Which again, it goes back to the thing. If that does happen, I really hope someone gets in his ear and says, "Hey, we need to figure out a way to have a more evened out justice system." I know that's not going to happen, but that's ideally what I would like.
I don't think that. I personally think the point of the Supreme Court is to interpret whether laws are constitutional, because that is literally what the Constitution says they're for. So if he's picking people that are following the rules of the Constitution, I think that's a great thing, and that's what he's going to do. Moving on to sports, do you have one final thought?
No, I said in a perfect world that would happen, but
Moving on to sports, LaShawn McCoy. I don't know if you've seen this. He's accused of violently beating his ex-girlfriend as well as his dog until kidney failure and his son for wetting the bed, as well as using illegal steroid injections. So if you haven't seen the image of his ex-girlfriend,
I've seen
your discretion is advised. It's horrendous. I mean, it's horrible. Obviously, these are accusations. He's denying it, of course. But, I mean, pretty not a good look at all.
And the problem I have with this situation is, of course, he's going to deny it. We don't know. This is just coming out today. And I have seen the picture. It's disgusting. But here's the problem. He's been in trouble before. And I think he got in a fight at a bar, and he's shown signs that he's made mistakes and he has violent tendencies. And honestly, I hate to generalize people, but NFL players, when it comes to domestic violence, they don't have a very good track record.
No, not at all, not at all. And it's such a violent sport that in a lot of these people don't come from very good families, and histories, that it kind of makes sense, but it's horrific and really sad to see such a great football player. But it's disgusting. So obviously the NFL and the police are investigating this, and we'll keep you updated as we learn more.
I would like to hope that, I don't know, there's no good way about this, because if she's lying about this, that's
horrible too.
Yeah, that's messed up.
I think I don't say that's equally as bad to accuse somebody of something like that if it's completely false.
Because I had to stop myself, because I don't think they're the same, but I still think it's still very bad to accuse someone like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, moving on to entertainment. This one's near and dear to my heart. 21 Pilots. It's rumored that they have a new single coming out this Thursday or sometime in the near future. After a hiatus of just over a year on Twitter, they hadn't said anything. They tweeted these creepy blinking eye GIFs with videos going on in them. They changed their logos, and then billboards with their new logo just started showing up all over the world. They don't have any words on them or anything, because they like to be mysterious and cool. But it's been like 3 years, I believe, since their last album. So I'm pretty excited. Any 21 Pilots fans out there?
They also sent out oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, if you're about to mention the email, I got an email last week because I'm part of their fan club, and I like to say I am an OG fan. I got a tattoo of theirs back when I was 19 years old.
I can confirm I saw it before they exploded. So he's not just being a hipster. He's a real fan, okay?
Yeah. Well, and you can tell because the logo that I have tattooed was 2 logos ago. They changed it for Blurry Face, and now they're changing it again. And the one that I have was for Vessel. All right,
no, that's exciting.
On to some exciting international news. The soccer team has officially been saved. Was it Thailand? As of early this morning, all 12 soccer players and their coach were saved by the different SEALs and divers that came from all over the world. And just in the nick of time, too. I guess storms have been getting crazy there, and they were running out of oxygen. It was getting super dangerous. So after 2 weeks of being locked up in a cave, they're all safe. So it's pretty exciting. I was getting a little worried for them when they were first showing the pictures and talking about how insanely difficult it was going to be to get them out. So really good news.
Well, and on top of all that, they happened to get trapped in the middle of a wet season, so that cave was going to fill up. So
Yeah.
it is very fortunate and lucky that they got out and were taken care of. Shout out to Elon Musk for trying to help out, even though it didn't really serve a purpose. But I appreciate the effort.
There's some pretty funny tweets making fun of him.
That's the thing is like I saw on Twitter that was like it didn't really help, but at least we got some funny Elon Musk memes. So I guess everybody wins.
Woo! All right, and this last one I'm gonna give to you because this is always your thing when we did the Audible for our
Yes.
random news of the week. We're doing our Arena Football Minute with Jake.
Yeah, for those of the one person that might have actually listened to that previous podcast we used to do, we jokingly did Arena Football Minute. It was a little segment that we did that was super quick because nobody really cares about indoor football. Well, I do because I moved to a championship city in Des Moines. The Iowa Barnstormers won the Indoor Football League championship this past weekend. I will say it was a pretty entertaining game. It came down to the final play. It was pretty entertaining. I didn't get to see it in person because I didn't get tickets.
Did you watch it on TV?
Well, they live stream it on YouTube, so I just watched it on YouTube.
There you go.
But yeah, shout out to the Iowa Barnstormers.
Woo! All right, and that wraps up the Watson Report.
Okay, so now it's time for the main topic of the show. We are going to be talking about religion and all the things that encompass it. I want to start this conversation off with a simple question, Derek. Well, it sounds like a simple question. It's actually more complicated than that. But religiously, what would you identify yourself as? What do you say that you believe yourself?
I like to say that I'm Christian now. My views changed a lot, but I do not every Sunday, but often enough go to a Christian church in Omaha called Lifegate, non-denominational. But I think more accurately, I'm spiritual, because to be a Christian, you're supposed to truly believe in Christ Himself, and I don't know if I'm fully convinced of that in a factual way, but I do really like the Christian religion and the church, and I like being a part of it. So spiritual / Christian. What about you?
I gotta give a shout out to the book Hubris Fall. It's one of my favorite authors. Matthew S. Hiley wrote it, and I read it last summer. And one character kind of summed up how I feel about it. Feel about religion. I'm hopefully agnostic, and what I mean by that is I would like to think that there is a higher power, but I don't necessarily believe in having a religion. I don't want to say that I'm atheist because I don't think I am. I just think that it doesn't affect my life and it doesn't impede. So I don't go to church. I don't pray. I don't practice anything religiously. So I like to think that if there is a higher power, I like to think He's out there or she. But honestly, I'm not religious at all. I used to be Christian, and there's just somewhere along the way I just kind of said, you know what, I don't really want to get involved with any sort of religion or spirituality. I'm just going to live my life, and whatever happens, happens kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's, I definitely went through different phases where there was probably a short period of time where I called myself atheist, definitely a long time that I was more agnostic. So I was going to kind of go through my story, like my relationship with religion from childhood on and how it evolved, if you're cool with that.
Oh, yeah, I was going to suggest doing that for both of us. So, yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah, so when I was a kid, we went to Methodist church, me and my parents and family. We were pretty good about going to church, maybe not every single weekend, but I remember going a lot as a kid. I was baptized at a young age with my dad, which was a pretty cool experience. As I got older, we moved to Reno. When I was in elementary school, we didn't go to church quite as much there, but on and off we were there. And then I ended up going to a Catholic high school, and I wasn't Catholic ever, but the public schools in Reno are not that great, and Bishop Manogue is a really good school, so that's why I ended up going there. And that's when my I started to get older and question religion more. Ironically, being in a Catholic school, that was probably when I started to become more agnostic. Uh,
Sometimes that happens.
yeah, well, and we had to take theology class every year, and that was the study of religion. So we learned about not just Catholicism, but Christianity and Islam, and even like Aboriginal tribal religions and history, and so I always thought it was really interesting to learn about. But I started to get a lot more into science, and I was in a lot of AP and honors classes, and studying science a lot more, and surrounded by more people, teenagers, obviously, that were also questioning God and religion, and so I kind of stopped believing fully at that point. But I was still, like I said, really interested in it. And then as I got to college, I kind of switched between calling myself agnostic and just spiritual, the term that I used, and I still think that that's probably where I fall the most. And I've given it a lot of thought, and so I want to do this show over the years, because I realized, even though I was still very interested in science, and I do think that science has taught us a lot, that religions at one point tried to teach us, but that we didn't fully understand yet. And then as we've learned more, I don't think that discredits religion, but I'll get to that in a second. I realize that there still are things, at least currently, that are completely unexplainable, and I do think that there's some sort of energy or power that connects life, and that having reason and purpose is a big part of being alive, and that's where I think spirituality comes in, the connectedness between all of us, and the fact that we have purpose, and the fact that we have consciousness. These are things that you can't really explain, but they exist, and they must have come from somewhere, and I think they're really important in our lives. So and that's pretty much where I feel I am now. And I've thought a lot about, when it comes to organized religion, I think that's something that I had more of a problem with when I was younger. And as I got older and thought about it more, obviously there are always going to be problems with certain factions of religion and certain churches and corruption, those things, because people are involved. So there's going to be bad people here and there. But in general, I think that organized religion serves four really good purposes. The first one being a community. I think that people need community. Sometimes you don't always have the best family, but you can, if you join a church, then you can get a family. Or if you're going through really hard times, you can talk to a pastor or a rabbi or your spiritual leader, and they'll be there to help you. If your family is going through really hard financial times because of illness or anything like that, there's a community aspect to church, and I think that's one of the more underrated parts of it. And since the beginning of religion, I think one of their main purposes has been explaining difficult questions that we haven't been able to explain, such as our origin story and the afterlife, which are things that we still don't entirely understand, even though the Big Bang Theory gives us a pretty good understanding of literally, physically, how we came to be. There's still no explanation to why it happened in the first place. There's some theories, but there's no. I fully believe in the Big Bang.
I don't.
Well, there's enough factual evidence to allude that it happened, but where it came from before that is a whole nother question. But anyways,
that's a different show.
Explaining, and if you go far back before we had answers, I think of like the Greek god Helios, who rode the sun up around the sky every morning, like tonight. And that was a way that Greek religion explained this giant ball of fire that they saw going through the sky. Now we have a more nuanced understanding of that, obviously, but I think it was important for people to have an explanation for something like that, and to have an explanation for where am I going to go when I die, just to feel comfortable. I think the third religion gives you a moral guide, moral compass in your life, something that I think everyone needs. Some people are able to just get that through family, if they're not religious. I don't think it necessarily has to come from religion, but that is something that it gives you, like the Ten Commandments, for example, teach you basically just how to not be a crappy person. And then I think the last thing, and it's kind of related to the third thing, but offering charity is something that religion does a lot, helping those less fortunate, whether or not they're actually believers. So that's my thoughts and opinions that I've formed over the years of thinking about religion. And like I said, I like to go to church. I like, especially with my family, and I see all the value in it. I don't know if I factually believe in Jesus Christ and all the stories that go along with it, which makes it hard for me to say that I'm actually a Christian. But I believe in the messages and the teachings and all the good things behind it. And I do think that religion has served a very important role in humanity forever.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of what you said, just in terms of as a not psychological, sociological aspect to it. I do agree that there are a lot of good people that come from a church, and as you address, we are human beings. We are not perfect, so there are going to be some really bad people out there. There are going to be televangelists that tell you that you need to donate a bunch of money so they can get their own personal jet. There's going to be snake oil salesmen. But yeah, I think in terms of my journey with religion, I have had so many internal fights with this. And what you were saying about, when you were younger, questioning God and questioning all this stuff. I mean, that's the beauty of having free will. And that's only human nature to have those questions. And I think it's important that you do ask those questions. And just think of all the scientific explanations we have. It's because people ask those questions and be like, well, I don't know about this, or I don't know about that. And in terms of the Bible stuff, I think I don't necessarily disagree that things happen in the Bible, but I also understand that it was written by people and that people can probably stretch things to make a better story. Like, I honestly don't think that Moses was in the desert for 40 years. Because, in the explanation would be, well, God protected them. I was like, so he gave them food and water for 40 years? It just showed up?
And if I can just chime in on that real quick, just from my theology classes in high school, that was something that one of my teachers talked a lot about. I can't remember the exact terms he used, but it was like scientific truth versus religious truth or biblical truth, and things like it's always 4 years, 40 days, and that just meant a long, long period of time is what. Yeah. He said to literally take it this way. So he kind of explained some of that. Don't take it too literally. But yeah, I get where you're going with that. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Honestly, I'd love to do this episode multiple times because I actually love talking about this topic. But Gomez, who I've done the political podcast with, so if anybody that actually watches my stuff, they'll know. You've met him. Him and I were talking about creation. And he gave me one of the best thought-provoking answers to creation. I was like, when he says that he doesn't believe that God created Earth, or he believes that God created Earth in 7 days, but it's the theory of relativity. It's 7 days to a God like him, but it could have been the billions of years that it's taken to create the planet as we know it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you use that theory, apply it to the 40 days.
Yeah, kind of. There's God, I can't remember what it's called anymore, but there's actually a very nuanced theory about the 7 days and relating it to seven millions of years, periods of time throughout the creation of Earth and the universe and everything, which is interesting. But at the same time, I'm more of a believer that God is responsible for the start of creation of our universe, but that maybe not specifically our Earth, but that he started, the Big Bang or whatever you think started their universe, which eventually led to us. Um, because it's hard for me not to believe in the Big Bang just because there's so much that we can actually see that.
I just hate to think the idea that the creation of everything on this planet happened by chance. But
And I don't think it's necessarily that. Like I say I'm spiritual because I feel like there's a spiritual energy that connects life and gives it purpose. And I think that could have always been there, and that's what God to me is, guiding, the direction of matter and creating, life by chance. But I do think that there is some randomness in it, and I think that that's okay. The universe is so big, and there's so many planets like Earth. We just happen to be the one that we know has intelligent life on it. So it could be more that God was in charge of sparking life on this planet and guiding our purpose. I just think that there can be you can believe in both science and spirituality. Is kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in that too. That instead of having them combat each other, I think we should focus on the idea that they can coexist. So in terms of
much like I think politics and religion should be able to coexist.
It's funny that you bring that up because I have that written down in my notes. So in terms of my journey with religion, so my dad, his side of the family grew up Mormon. My mom was more modern Christian. I think they call it Pentecostal, but I'm just going to say modern Christian. So that was the kind of household I grew up in. Both my parents agreed that they were going to let me kind of decide what I wanted to believe in and carve out my own path spiritually. I went to churches, not regularly, but I did go quite a bit. Usually went with my aunt and uncle because I really liked their church. I was in a lot of different church programs. I did this thing. I don't know if they still do this, but I did this. This actually, I met my friend Adam. And Gomez. We went to this program called Dare to Share. So it was like this big youth group type thing that we all went to for a couple days in Omaha, I think. And it was kind of like a big, I don't know. It's just a big like Christian live show for teenagers, I guess, is how I would kind of formulate it. Because it wasn't really a concert. I mean, there was music in it. There were musical acts, but there was a lot of like lecture involved in it. I will say the guy that was there was actually pretty funny. But so I was into stuff like that. But as I got older, I started to stray from that, and I stopped going to church as much, and I was doing a lot of questioning. And I think that also comes from a place of I've had a lot of death in my life. A lot of people that I've been very close to and cared a lot about have passed away. And, I hate to be that stereotypical person, but at that point I'm like, how much more do I have to take? If there is a God, why does he keep punishing me? What did I do? What did my family do kind of thing? And I kind of strayed from that path doing that way. And there was a period when I came back and I had an experience that I thought was it was one moment in church where I really felt like I felt the presence of God. And I had that happen for me. And I tried living a little bit more of a Christian lifestyle. I'm not saying I tried very hard, but I did try. And then again, somewhere along the line, I was just like, I'm just not a very spiritual person. That's just kind of who I am. So I've led a path where, like I said earlier, I don't necessarily denounce religion or anything or denounce a God if there is one. It's not a big part of my life, and I'm okay with that. I don't necessarily need that reassurance of if there is a God or not. I'm just going to live my life the way I want to, and I'm going to try to be a good person. and yeah, just go about my day. And I'm also not someone that believes in being mean or rude to someone that believes there's a God, because I don't know. Nobody knows anything about this stuff,
Yeah.
And so I don't believe in that idea that, well, you're Christian, so you're an idiot. No, I don't believe that at all. I applaud you for having religion and sticking to it, and I respect your personal choice because I'm a decent human being and I'm not a jerk. So that's, like I said, that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm open to anything. I don't hate church. I think church is a really, like you said, community. It's a really fun, special place to go to church for 2 hours on a Sunday. I've never had a bad experience at church.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a bad experience with people that go to
So
church.
you've never gone to Catholic Mass then?
No, I've been to a Catholic wedding. I was at a Catholic
gosh.
wedding last fall, and I was like, goodness gracious, the ceremony is an hour long. I love the people that are getting married. I'm happy, but goodness, this is
Yeah,
up,
definitely
down, up, down.
You're not trying to shoot down Catholicism, but it's the least exciting way to go to church. That's for sure.
Look, if I've made fun of Mormons, because again, my family's Mormon, but the Mormons are the nicest people I've ever met. They're very sweet, like missionaries. The ones that I met, very sweet people. But yes, Catholics, you got to work on your time management, man. I don't want to sit there up and down for an hour for a marriage. I can only imagine what a funeral is like.
And trying to memorize all the like sayings that you have to say. It's exhausting.
I had no
they
idea.
Change the words every few years too as they reinterpret the Bible. So like in high school, I had the first 2 years I learned like how to say one thing, and then my junior year they're like, actually, we're changing everything now. You have to memorize something new. So nothing gets. I've got a lot of great Catholic friends, and nothing against the religion, but Mass is not fun.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have any bones to pick with any religion except Catholics because they're time man. No, I'm kidding. Catholics, like I've said, there's any experience I've had religiously with any sort of religious group, they've been very nice to me. They've been very gracious, and
yeah, and I think that's how religion should be. I do. I'm sure there are sects of religion that are not good and don't have very like radical jihadist groups. Obviously, like they don't represent most of Islam, but they do have very terrifying beliefs. I mean, if you're a Westerner. And the West Baptist Church, obviously not a great example of Christianity, and I would say not Christian.
And you wanted to talk about this, so I think that's a good segue into this about how we treat Christians in the media. I don't like how, like, I agree with you. I don't like how they perceive them. I think they go too far on this Westboro Baptist Church thing where they're like, well, he's just another crazy Christian conservative, or what have you.
I do think there is a stigma created by a lot of media that lumps together Christians with places like the Westboro Church and driving home points such as like anti-gay and obviously in a lot of religions, homosexuality isn't necessarily permitted, or neither is gay marriage, just because marriage, according to religion, is between a man and a woman, or at least Christianity is between a man and a woman, because it's supposed to be the beginning of procreation, and really homosexuality wasn't a big thing back in the early days of Christ, or at least not outspoken that we know of. But I think that the problem is with that messaging is that people that are Christian, for the most part, the vast majority are not actually homophobic or have any real prejudice against gay people. Obviously, there are more traditional people that do, and I don't really subscribe to that belief, because even if your church may not allow gay marriage, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be hateful against gay people. But I think that's the messaging a lot of the times, or at least that's what a lot of people who are on the outside of religion looking in, that's how they see it. And then to me, being Christian at least, probably most religions, is about being accepting and loving, and saying that God loves all people, sinners. We're all sinners, and He loves us all and forgives us all, as long as we're not, murdering people.
It's love the sinner, hate the sin is usually the this expression they use for that. But yeah, I agree. I think that, again, I don't know where they find these Christians, or they have the target of these Christians, because again, every religious person I've encountered has been very nice to me. And usually when I don't ever bring it up, but I'm sure if I brought it up, they'd say, you know what, I don't prescribe to homosexuality. I don't agree with homosexuality, but I still, God would still love you. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
and that's kind of one of the questions I wrote down in my notes, was like, let's look at it this way. We mentioned it before, and let's bring that up again. The Bible was created was written by people. It is believed that it was the word of God, and they wrote it down, what have you. But you also got to think that churches had impact on this. And if there is a God, do you think He really cares about homosexuality or gay marriage? I personally think if there is a higher power, that higher power, if He is omnipotent.
Omnipresent,
Yeah,
omniscious.
omnipresent. If He can see everything that's going
Yeah.
on this big planet of ours, you think He's going to care if two men or two women marry each other? Because I don't believe that.
No, I agree with you. When it comes to the legality of gay marriage, it's an interesting topic, because I've kind of mentioned this before. Um, the point my point against the federal legalization of gay marriage, or like making, is that marriage is supposed to be a religious ceremony, and a private institution has a right to create rules for their ceremonies, and to them it's between a man and a woman. So it's hard for me to agree with any federal legislation that would force them to marry gay people, but I don't think that's necessarily what it does anyways. And the big argument against it is that marriage has become kind of a political and like part of the state and government as much as it's a part of religion now. So I was a supporter of gay marriage, but it's just an interesting topic, because it was always a religious ceremony, but now all of a sudden it's also political and government based. One thing that kind of bothered me that I just wanted to bring up, I don't know why I'm forgetting her name, but one of the judges that Trump was considering for the Supreme Court, I was like trying to look up her name, but it's escaping me right now. But the big argument that a lot of Democrats had against her, was that she was Catholic. And if I'm not mistaken, the Second Amendment to the Constitution says that no religious test should ever be placed upon somebody in order to hold a federal office. And I'm not mistaken about that. It's true.
Well, yeah. And
it was really bothering me that that's what they were going to go after, is that she was Catholic, even though it's strictly illegal for them to do that.
Hey, man, when you're losing, you got to find you're going to find anything you can to try to discredit someone. And
and Anthony Kennedy was Catholic, by the way. So and Brett Kavanaugh is Catholic too. They were saying that she was too Catholic.
Well, that's the thing that I wanted to talk about. Good job, Derek. Good job being a co-host. Segueing into this, I don't think that should matter, because religion should not play a part in your job qualifications. Okay, there's a reason why that's in the First Amendment of our
second.
Well, freedom of religion. I'm sorry. Well, what you said, yes, but I'm sorry. Freedom of religion is our First Amendment right. So that should not matter at all. I understand that you might think that there might be some sort of moral code behind that, and sure, you can say that, but I don't think that politics, good or bad, need to have religion in them. The whole idea of separation of church and state, we've kind of strayed way far from that as a society. I think that, and you're probably going to disagree with me on this, but I don't think that religion belongs in politics at all, good or bad.
I agree.
Oh, okay.
It legally shouldn't either. Like it literally says it in the law that you cannot test somebody based on a religion in politics. I definitely think that the separation of church and state is like incredibly important.
Okay, the way that you were talking earlier, I thought you were going to disagree with me on that. But
No, I'm saying it's ridiculous that they would use the fact that she's Catholic as a means to attack her and question her. If she would have been chosen and she would have gotten to the hearing and Elizabeth Warren would have asked her about her Catholic views, I would hope that she would immediately just refer to the Second Amendment and say that you have no legal right to ask me that. Please ask me another question. I'm afraid that a lot of people wouldn't in that circumstance, but I would hope that they would, because it's ridiculous that these things even get brought up.
Yeah, and I'm just someone who is and I know you are as well. I am a First Amendment absolutist. I think the First Amendment is the most important thing about our country, and that's what makes us so special.
Mm-hmm.
And why, you can try to argue wherever you're listening to this podcast, but as far as I'm concerned, we're the best country on the planet. Whatever. We've gotten pretty crazy lately. I'll admit that, but I do love.
We're still miles ahead of everywhere else.
I do love this country, and I'm a firm believer in the fact that you can believe whatever you want and have public office. You could be a Satanist and be in public office. I don't care, as long as you have the ability to understand, just like any job, that my religious beliefs don't belong in this workplace. They just don't. And I'm totally with you. As far as trying to ask someone if they're Catholic, what are you trying to gain in this situation? Like what matters if you think they're too Catholic or not? Who cares? Just accept the fact that you lost and move on. Take your L. Just take it.
Well, it's true. Elections have consequences, and I really hope everyone gets out and votes during this midterm election, because it is so incredibly important.
And that also brings up another question I had. Do you think that religion is as important? Well, I don't think it is as it used to be, but do you think religion is important in American society, or do you think it's kind of an afterthought?
I think so. I mean, I think if you're looking to Hollywood or to the mainstream media, you probably wouldn't think so. But I think there's probably still more Christian and religious people in the country than there are not. And funny enough, just kind of an interesting point, that it seems like Democrats a lot of the times are the ones that are kind of pushing the anti-Christian agenda through the media. Yet a lot of their base, Hispanics, are very often Catholic or Christian. African American families are some of the most spiritual.
Absolutely.
So it is interesting to me that the liberal elites in California are kind of going in the opposite direction. But
yeah, I don't understand that either. And
but no, I think religion's still a big, and spirituality still, and it might be evolving. There might be more atheist or agnostic people than there were in the past, but I still think that there's a strong following of Christianity and other religions, and if nothing else, spirituality, kind of like I was talking about, the way that I see things. I think that there are a lot of people that have views similar to that too. Or it might not be specific to a specific religion, but that they still, have a spiritual connection to their own form of God.
Yeah, and I agree. I definitely think that it is evolving, and it's becoming more and more accepting. And we talked about that earlier about homosexuality. it is not a huge talking point, at least from what I've seen, to a lot of Christians. There are, like you said, there's fundamental Christians that are very by the book and have their beliefs about it. But I don't know if I agree with you as being as important as it was. I think I agree that it's evolving, but maybe it's just me watching too much TV or watching movies. Maybe it's
Well, I did say less. I did say less than it used to be.
Right.
I think it's still I'd say more often than not. I think people are spiritual or Christian or Jewish or Islamic, Muslim.
Which I gotta say, I'm still upset about this. Why did the Jews get comedy? Okay, if we're gonna give one religious group, why do the Jews get comedy? I'm just kidding. They've been through a lot. They've earned they've earned something. No, that's a joke. I hope people understand that I'm kidding. I have nothing against Jews.
I can't wait for us to do our show on political correctness.
Oh, God, that's gonna be rough.
You want to do that next week?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I will say this though, in terms of religion not being in Hollywood as much or TV and things like that, you're probably the same here. I'm totally okay with that. Unless I'm prescribing to something that's like I know is going to be Christian or whatever religion. Well, I don't need it in my movie.
It's not just that. No, that's not really what I was saying. It's not just that it's not there. It's that there's a lot of hate and anti-religion, and that's what I'm not okay with. For example, Chris Pratt, it was like 2 months ago, I think, he sent out a tweet that said like thoughts and prayers to this family, and he just got killed by all these people that he said prayers in a tweet, and it's like he was giving somebody, I don't remember exactly what the situation was, but it was somebody that was going through a hard time, and he was saying thoughts and prayers to them, and he just gets killed on Twitter, and like things like that's what bothers me. I do think that there's definitely a market for more Christian or religious films. I mean, look at how The Passion of the Christ did. And I forget the other one that came out like last year. They're huge successes.
You want to talk about one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had at a movie theater was going to see Passion of the Christ. Because I don't think my parents understood what they were getting me into, because, was that 2003? So I would have been 10 years old. Yeah. Just about 10 years old.
I watched it at home. I didn't go to the theaters.
It was on Ash Wednesday, and they're like, "Oh, this is the thing," and then we watched it, and man, oh man, that was a cinematic experience. People were bawling their eyes out in this theater, and I'm just like, "What am I?" It was just like the most
a lot to take in for a 10-year-old,
right? Well, yeah, not even. I wasn't even quite
9 years old. Yeah,
I wasn't even 10 yet. I was almost there. I thought I knew. I wasn't even in the double digits, and I was watching this man just being brutally beaten to death. And that being said, I agree. There is a market. Those God's Not Dead. Those movies did well. They did well enough to make a sequel. So those movies did well. Whether or not you think they're good movies or not, it's up to you, but
nobody's making anybody go watch them. I just do think that there would be more of a market than Hollywood thinks if they wanted to make more of those movies, but it's, and like I said, like it's not like I think there should be more religion in movies and film necessarily. I don't like the anti-religious movement by a lot of people in Hollywood.
Okay.
And like making fun of Christianity and things, to some extent, everything, it's okay to make fun of everything a little bit, but
yeah, spread it out,
And don't attack people. Like, I understand the sentiment when you're saying thoughts and prayers to somebody, whether or not, you believe in God, it's the sentiment, it's the meaning behind what you're saying. Like,
well, I think you kind of tapped into something there with the idea of, he said it on Twitter, so there has to be an outrage brigade because it's Twitter, and there has to be a problem there. Did he physically harm anybody in that situation? Did he go out of his way and say, well, thoughts and prayers because I'm Christian and God will help them, or this, that, and the other thing? No, he just said thoughts
like
and
if you
prayers.
don't believe in God, you're going to it was a very positive message. And
yeah. Did you actually see his speech that he got at the MTV Movie Awards when he got like their kind of version, like Generation Award or whatever?
I did not.
He went in it. It was a funny speech, very Chris Pratt, where he had like legitimate advice, and then he had some weird jokes about like if you have to poop at a party, pee first, or pee afterwards, so the pee will cover up the poop smell, or some stupid stuff like that. It was pretty funny, but
I do love Chris Pratt.
He did at one point said that he said that there's a God and he loves you, and if you accept that, you'll be happy, or something like that. And he, got a lot of applause.
I think I did kind of see that headline. Just cool. I mean, good for him for being outspoken.
And I don't. And it's funny?
Interesting. No, nobody ever attacks athletes. Most athletes, they'll always say like in interviews after like big wins or big moments, especially like new like college kids who are just like selecting their college, or like Saquon Barkley, they always say like first and foremost, I want to thank God, family for this opportunity. But they never get roasted for some reason.
No,
athletes get double standards in every way, I guess.
Well, what's funny is like Chris Pratt should not be applauded for that because it shouldn't be that big of a deal. It's like we somehow made this thing where it's like, anytime you mention God or you say anything about your religion, oh my gosh, get that off my TV. I don't care what you believe or whatever your religion is. It's like, who cares, man? Who cares? I would like to point out that Tim Tebow, I love that dude, and I feel like he got blackballed by the NFL.
He got shafted, man. Just because he prayed, like he really got screwed. Like it's not like he was going to be the greatest football quarterback ever, but he won a lot of games. He got him to the playoffs. He did a lot for that team, and he tried his butt off. And just because he prayed, that was one of the most horrible examples of the press just being disgusting towards somebody. And the crazy thing is, like a lot of other players do the same thing. They'll get on a knee and pray. They'll do this. It's not that uncommon. It's just because it was Tim Tebow.
And then there were like questions about premarital sex. It's like, why do you care about this guy's personal life?
That's ridiculous.
And I mean, whether or not you believe that God would truly care about premarital sex or not, leave the guy alone, man. Let him believe what he wants. Mm-hmm. And everybody made a big deal about his eye black when he would put Bible verses on there. It's like, who is he hurting? Who is he bothering?
And Colin Kaepernick has a Bible verse tattooed on his arm, but he gets the same people that attacked Tim Tebow raise him up as a god.
I know. That's one thing that's always bothered me, and it always does make me laugh because it's almost telegraphed. Like every post-game interview, it's always like, well, first I would thank God for winning this game, helping us win this game. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Tim Tebow, God forbid, he prays in the end zone when he scores a touchdown. I will be honest with you, I wasn't on the Tebow bandwagon when he played in college, mostly because I am a fan of the Oklahoma Sooners and he beat them in the national championship game.
But honestly, that was before I really got into college football.
Well, I was a huge fan. Here's the thing. I love Tebow time. It was entertaining. They get way behind, and then he had to pull a crazy comeback. That was fun to watch. And the man beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in a playoff game.
That's a pretty big feat. Not many teams, not named the Patriots, do that.
I'd say we could wrap it up unless you have any other things you'd like to add about religion.
No. Since we had this technical difficulties late start, I'm running pretty late. Rochelle's going to be upset.
I'm sorry. Rochelle, if you watch this or listen to this later, It's not Derek's fault. It's my fault.
It's not. I waited around for 50 minutes.
50?
Yep. We didn't start until 5:20, and I was ready at 4:30.
All right, we're getting inside baseball here. I usually come home and poop. I had to come home and poop. I got everything set up, as I told you at the top of the show, and all got haywire and screwed up. Okay, I'm sorry, but I'd like to thank you for watching and listening to this anyway. You can get this show on YouTube. You can watch the video there, but you can also get it at loudandopinionated.com. It's our new fun-looking website. I really think it's gorgeous. Derek designed it all himself. We've got articles from myself, Derek, and John Sparks, a good friend of mine from college. He wrote an article there. He did text me today. I asked him if he's going to work on another article. He is working on another article for us.
Awesome.
So
yeah, we got to get working on some more. And anyone, if you have any thoughts or opinions that you wanna have us share for you, go ahead and send me an email, Derek@loudandopinionated.com. It's DEREK. Try to keep it, above 300 words, less than 2,000, and I think we should be good. Send over any images you want included with them and links to where you found those images so we can source them properly. And if you want your Twitter handle, Facebook, anything like that, go ahead and give us that. And we'll share your opinions for you. That's what we're all about. Everybody can be loud, everyone can be opinionated. Let's just try to be nice.
We're trying to create a movement. We're trying to say this. Loudandopinionated.com is a space for everybody to share their thoughts and truly say whatever you want. We don't want to censor anybody. We won't censor anybody, whatever it may be. Good, bad, left, right, liberal, conservative. Put it on there. And, as long as it's well worded, we might cut it to shreds in the editing. But, it'll be there for everybody to see. Like I said, you can get the video on YouTube. You can also check it out on loudandopinionated.com. Thanks so much for watching and listening, guys.